Alright, today we're going to fill the CNG tank. Right now we're at a fill station located off Sand Canyon, off the 5. It seems that all fill stations are typically the same. They're like a regular gas station. What we're going to do first is take this CNG container, we're going to stick it in our holder here. Make sure it's nice and snug, that way it doesn't tip over while we're filling. Then we're going to take our assembly that has a receptacle with our pressure gauge attached to our DIN, and we're going to take this and hand tighten it onto our CNG tank. Make sure it goes nice and smooth. We want to keep this in the best condition that we can. It only needs to be hand tight.
Push the emergency shutdown button nearest you and call our service number, which...
Okay, now that this is on, we'll go through the next part of our checklist, which is make sure that the opening on the valve, you open it, oh, that is the closed tank, is that correct? Okay, this is filled from yesterday. We have a little bit in there. In fact, let me start by closing the bleed valve first so we don't release any excess gas that's in there. So we close the bleed valve. Next, we open up this valve handle all the way, and then you go back a half of a turn. So now that the bleed valve is closed, the valve handle is open, you can check the pressure. This pressure is now reading the inside of this container, which is approximately 0. Now we can go ahead and start to fill this. So before you turn on the machine, you take the adapter and you'll open this all the way down. The arrow will be pointing backwards against this arrow, and it will open up this, allowing it to fit onto the adapter. So when we push it down, we'll open up our dust cap. We will attach the nozzle to the receptacle. Slowly close this. And it won't close unless it's properly on. Now it's properly on. Now I'm going to open this and put it in the fill position. And now the pressure is just equalized between this line and this tank. And we are at about 500 psi right now. So any excess CNG that was now in this line is now inside of our tank. Now we are in the fill position. Now that we're attached, we can go ahead and begin the fueling process by inserting our card into the card reader. Make sure you go by the instructions. On every single pump there's a list of 8 instructions to go by, and we'll be going over all of these. We've just finished part 3, which is removing the refueling nozzle from the holder and connecting it to the vehicle. Now we're going to insert our card, and we're going to start filling. Now, if you've never done this before, you have 2 options. You can watch the video, which will give you an ID, or if you have done this before, you can type in the 2-digit training ID number that'll allow you to bypass the training video. We've already done the... Oh, I'm too slow, so the transaction canceled. I'll try this one more time.
The code's 58, by the way.
Our code is 58. We've already seen the training video, so I'm going to go ahead and start this. By typing in 58. Training ID is correct. It's waiting. It's connecting. Verifying. Now we're okay to start running. Next step is number 5. We're going to lift this handle that's right here. And once we lift this, we're going to start filling. We got to keep an eye on the pressure gauge because our first run we noticed that the pressure gauge does not correspond with the fill completion percentage. So in order to be precise about this, we're going to keep an eye on the pressure gauge and make sure it doesn't go above 3,000. I'm getting ready to fill. Hold on. Keep it there. That's good. We're at 3,500, which is more than the working pressure. Since this has heated up from the quick transfer, we will notice that the pressure will slowly decrease as it cools. We can wait for it to cool, or we can go ahead and release it right now. Since it's filled, we're going to go ahead and release this. Next step in releasing this is we have to close off the gas to this chamber here so that we can safely release the bleed out the valve. So first I'm going to close this. Make sure it's nice and tight. We don't want anything leaking out. Next I'm going to release the nozzle from our receptacle very slowly. Now that's released. I can hang this back up. And before we can take this pressure gauge off, we need to bleed out any excess gas in here because as you can see, since this is cut off from this tank, this section right here is at 3,000 psi. We're going to bleed out any extra natural gas from here. Very slowly bleed out the gas. Now that it's empty, I'll slowly open it all the way. Now verified that this is empty. Now I can take off the DIN from the valve. Double check to make sure that this is tight. Obviously it is, or it'd still be leaking. Slowly and carefully we take this off. Oh yeah, replace the dust cap immediately on your receptacle. The longer this stays clean, the longer that it is usable. Now we take off our filling device and we will store this very carefully. And now we have a filled tank. We can take this back to our lab. Now we can run this. And that is the steps from start to completion of how to fill this